For December the 18th, 2021, this is an audio test of the system. For December the 18th, 2021, this is, it works fine. Excellent. Okay. So what we're going to do today is we are going to continue and hopefully complete the series on Gestapo Gary on presuppositionalism. And then we're going to take a look at life in ancient Rome before Jesus. So we will just continue on from where we left off last episode, so we don't get too bogged down in time. We are just going to forge ahead.
That's immoral by a Christian standard.
It's not immoral, because the Bible makes it very clear that God, there is no defect in his righteousness or character when animals suffer through the sin of man. Now, you said that there are contradictions. Now, can your worldview establish that any contradictions are a problem?
Okay, I will move to that, but you dealt with that in a very bad way. So first of all, is it justified for innocent beings to suffer?
If you do not answer my question, the conversation will be over.
I want to answer that question.
If you overtalk me, the conversation will be over, sir. Now, I directly answered your question. You raised the issue of contradictions a number of times, that they were problematic, and in fact that they were defeaters or falsifiers for the Christian God. Now, there's going to be some quid pro quo here. If there is not, the conversation will be over. Now, can you account and establish that contradictions are an actual problem in your worldview?
Okay, Darth, I will talk about that, but can we stick with the issue of animal suffering?
I'm waiting for an answer to my question, sir.
So are you saying that you're not going to continue the conversation unless I move to that?
I would like an answer to my question. I answered your question. I'm asking you a question.
Okay.
Do you have a rational justification that contradictions are an actual problem in your worldview?
So, Darth, I will go to that if that's really what you want to go to, and you'll drop out of the conversation otherwise. If that's what you're saying,
I'm waiting.
So that is what you're saying, right?
I'm waiting for an answer to my question, sir.
Darth, please just answer. I don't want to mess around.
Sir, I don't want to have to move on to somebody else. Are contradictions an actual problem in your model of reality?
Okay, so I'm going to take that you're saying that you will drop out the conversation. So I guess you're forcing me to move on to this issue. So yeah,
okay,
they are.
Okay. Can you explain to me in your worldview why contradictions? How do you account that they're an actual problem?
Yeah, I have irreducibly normative reason to reject contradictions.
I'm specifically referring that A cannot equal not A.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah, I have irreducibly normative reason to accept that.
No, I'm not. All I heard was irreducibly. Is the law of non-contradiction true at all times and all places?
Yes, and I have irreducibly normative reason to accept it.
Okay, can you tell me, how do you know it's true at all times and all places?
I know it immediately.
How do you know the state of all entities?
Yeah, well, are you asking me to provide an account? I don't know the state of all entities. I know the state of certain.
Okay. Is it true that for all entities represented by the letter A, that all entities always equal themselves in a time index, and they can never equal or coexist with their denial or negation? Is that true?
Yes, I accept the laws of logic.
Right now, do you know that in virtue of sense perception or your imagination?
I know it in virtue of what I immediately know.
You know it because of what you know? That's the answer? Yeah. Okay, that doesn't answer the question. How do you know that for all entities they cannot equal their negation at all times and all places. How do you know that?
That's because I have irreducibly normative reason to accept that proposition.
I don't understand what that mumbo jumbo is. Can you tell me in plain, simple words, how do you know that all entities could never equal their negation at all times and all places?
Okay, so yeah, do you know what a reason is?
I'm waiting for an answer and my patience is growing thin.
Okay, if you wanted me to answer it in simple English, then there's going to have to be some quid pro quo.
Sir, I'm waiting for an answer.
Yeah, so I'll just explain it then. Okay.
Okay, yeah. Go ahead. I'm waiting.
So I'm getting to it. So a reason is something that is counts in favor of you accepting some belief or doing some act. It's irreducible, can't be restated in non-normative terms, and it's normative because it pertains to what you ought or should do. So I have irreducibly normative reason to accept various propositions, including the laws of logic.
Yeah, that's just a bunch of gobbledygook. How do you know that all entities cannot equal their negation at all times and all places?
I know immediately that I have a justification in the form of an irreducibly normative reason to accept that.
Do you know that some planets cannot equal their negation at any time and any place? Do you know that there are no planets out there that they cannot equal their negation? Do you know that?
That would follow from the laws of logic, which I know.
No, I'm asking you to account for the law of non-contradiction. Do you account for it in terms of your sense perception or because of your thoughts?
That's a bullshit question. Another bullshit fucking question from Darth Dawkins. How can you account for other it doesn't even make any sense. How do you account for other planets having not having a negation or having a negation? I mean, really?
So you're going to need to clarify what you mean by an account.
Exactly.
All right, listen, my patience has just about run out.
You need to clarify what you mean by account. Listen, my patience is just about run out. Jawohl.
Please justify for me that for all entities that exist, they can never equal or coexist with their negation. If you give me a philosoph-speak answer, I will move on to somebody else, sir.
Well, look, Duff, I did explain it in simpler English. I mean, I could probably take more time to explain what I mean by that if you'd ask.
You have 30 seconds to answer the question. If you do not answer the question, if you answer it in double talk, I will move on to somebody else.
Could you restate the question, please?
How do you know for all entities that exist that they always equal themselves and can never equal their negation at all times and all places?
Yeah, I know it immediately. It's intrinsically credible.
Because
the
of the
reason
law
that
of
I have to accept
identity.
that is.
Right?
That's not an answer to my question. Okay. You said you know it immediately. How do you know? How do you know that for all planets,
That actually is an answer to the question. Fuck.
The universe, they always equal themselves and can't know their negation? How do you know that immediately? Have you visited all planets at all times?
It follows from the law of non-contradiction.
Exactly.
Right. That's okay. How do you know that the law of non-contradiction holds?
Because it's a law. And it's an axiom. And we just do, Darth.
That's because I have, like I've said, I have an intrinsically credible, indubitable reason. What's the problem?
Listen, we're done. We're done. We're done. Do you think
that means Darth is giving up? He's turning tail and running. Flee! Run away! Run away! That's what he's doing.
You're fooling me with your double talk.
This is what I like. You can ask people. This is what I genuinely believe.
Listen, sir. No, listen, sir.
Listen, sir.
I'm a fairly intelligent person.
No, you're not. You're a fucking dumbass.
I'm sure.
Right. So we're going to move on. I requested you several times to give me a straightforward, clear answer instead of giving me philosoph-speak, double talk, and you essentially refused to answer the question while pretending to answer it with double talk. So we're going to move on to the next person.
All right. Well, I'm going to make my closing statement, Darth. So would you like to go first, or should I go first?
No, you can go.
Okay. So Darth is demonstrating his hypocrisy here I actually do hold that view. I mean, I could take more time to explain it, but he doesn't really want me to for some reason. So that's my view there, and he just rejects it on similar grounds that he claims we should we should reject our like atheistic views or naturalistic views. He's using the very same argument that he deploys against everybody else. I just don't understand why he's such a hypocrite. Now, of course, we all noticed the dodge. I brought up the problem of evil. I made my case for it, and he immediately jumps to his little script that we've all heard before. He's just a dodger. He can't handle arguments against his own position. That's all I have to say.
Exactly. Well said.
Yeah, is my mic working?
No, it's not.
Yeah, it's working now. Let's hear your towering intellect.
Okay, so basically we had the problem of evil invoked. There is no inconsistency in God's temporal judgment. Include animal suffering. Animals suffer as a consequence of man's action. Man was warned that death would ensue on the planet if man ate of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So the blame goes for the death of animals upon man, because God is righteous in his temporal judgment. So animals suffer, so-called innocent animals suffer. Animals are neither innocent nor guilty. Animals just suffer because of the consequences of man's agency and violation of God's command. Now, he said that there were a number of contradictions that allegedly falsified the Christian God. When he was asked to establish that contradictions are a problem, all we got was philosophy and double talk. He was asked 6 or 7 times in.
That's how many times has this guy said philosophy speak and double talk, not referring to anything in particular? This is how you lose your debates and try and save face, of course, unsuccessfully.
Plain English to account that the law of non-contradiction holds at all times in all places, and all we got was a gobbledygook response. We didn't get a justification that all entities always equal themselves and can never equal their negation. Only said he knows it immediately, but he never explained how he knows that. So that was a complete waste of time dealing with him. Next.
Okay, so we are actually approaching the end here. Now, okay.
Yeah, I'll take one more.
Okay, well, I know Carlos wants to go, but I think also JHC has something quick for you. Do you mind doing 2, or are you calling it now?
Who?
His name in here is Protoss Armada.
Is he one of the? Is he from Krillism?
He's not really tight with the Krillism people. That's kind of why we've always liked him here. I mean, worst case, he says something you don't like.
What's his screen name?
His screen name in here is Protoss Armada. He's at the very top of the list.
Protoss, have I put you on my troll list before?
Oh, he's typing. I don't know. Do you actually have your mic right now, man, or are you micless? Oh, yeah, okay, you're gonna have to do it at another time. He says apparently you are on the troll list. Okay, and then yeah. Seth, who you've said you don't want to talk to, apparently he does actually have a serious argument about perception. Is that something you're interested in hearing?
Well, if I said earlier I didn't want to talk with Seth, was he the one who was cursing me out?
I think there's more than one person who did that, but he was, I think, one of them. Yeah. So
okay, well,
I'm asking you if him.
We'll move on. Yeah, I'm not going to change my mind. We'll move on to somebody else.
Okay, and just to be clear, him saying he wants to come in with a serious argument, that's not a mind shifter there for you?
Yeah, we'll move on to the next person.
Okay, all right. Unless anyone else wants to go, it's just Carlos. That's the end of the list. All right, Carlos, go ahead.
Okay, hold on, man.
Hold on, can I?
Whoa! You guys have your time. It's my turn. Okay, I am the final boss of this server, Ombre. You have rambled on long enough and cut down several other innocent people, but I'm here to end your spree. Okay? I have to tell you my story. before we even move on, man, because it's very relevant to Christianity. I was a Christian for many years, hombre, many years straight. Unfortunately, one time I went to my grandmother's house, okay, which is in Cuba, and I was locked in her basement with a chain. This is not a stick, by the way. You might say that this actually happened, okay? So please don't judge me. I was locked in her basement for fucking months straight. I begged and I begged God and Jesus, whatever the fuck, to come help me. He never helped me. That was when I lost my faith in Jesus, man. And I moved on to atheism. But there's always something inside of me that has wanted to believe in God and Jesus. Nobody else would tell you that in this service. So if you can give me good reasons for God existing, I'm open-minded. I'm willing to listen to it and maybe even go back if you can convince me.
So you have a lack of belief in God or a denial of the existence of God?
I have a lack of belief.
Okay, so you lack belief in God because God is not rationally justified?
I lack belief in God because I see no evidencio for God.
Okay. Does that include the universe?
That includes the universe, yes.
Okay, so the universe is not evidence of God in your view?
Nope.
Okay. What's the causal origin of the universe then?
I have no idea.
Well, if you have no idea, how do you exclude God?
Well, see, here's the thing. I exclude him, but not determinately. Like, I'm willing to see evidence, but if you just say God made it, though, I could say Bigfoot made it, though. Like, that's not proof.
Well, actually, that would be a logical contradiction to say Bigfoot did it. Okay.
Well, you never know that. What if Bigfoot had divine fucking powers?
Carlos. Okay.
Wait, sir. What if Bigfoot?
Carlos, please, you don't listen over talk me. Listen, sir. Carlos. Okay, Carlos. If you're going to keep on doing this, I'll stop talking with you. Now, Bigfoot is a material being and is actually a subset of the universe. Okay. Now, so something cannot create itself. If something is a subset of the universe, it cannot create itself. Number two, you stipulated that the universe is not evidence for God, which means that the universe does not have its causal origin in God. That is your stipulation. When I asked you what is the causal origin of the universe, you said you didn't know. If you don't know what the causal origin of the universe is, then you don't have a basis to say that it's not God. You may say that you're unpersuaded, but to say that there's no evidence for God, what you need to do is you need to have a more modest statement saying, I'm unconvinced. But to stipulate that the universe is in fact not evidence, and that would entail that the universe does not have its causal origin in God, then you're going to have to tell me what is the causal origin of the universe that thereby would rule God out. Unless, of course, you had a defeater for the existence of God. Do you have a defeater for the existence of God? I don't think so, because you told me you merely had a lack of belief and not a denial of the existence of God. Now, your atheism, which constitutes a lack of belief, is because there's not justification or evidentiary support. Now, rational justification is going to require that you live in a certain kind of a universe where there's matter, energy, causality, and laws of nature. So since you do reason, do those things exist, matter, energy, causality, and laws of nature, that provide you with the capacity to reason?
Well, if I could trust my senses.
I didn't ask you about your senses. I said, since you have the capacity to reason, and reason is going to require the reality of the external physical world, causality, and laws of nature, do those prerequisites of reason exist?
Sure.
How do you know it?
Well, I have to rely on my senses. But then again, like, how do you know the universe hasn't always existed?
Okay. How do I know that? Do you believe in science?
Yeah, mostly.
Do you accept the second law of thermodynamics?
I don't know what that is.
That means that everything is moving from a state of order to disorder.
Well,
the first and second law of thermodynamics are some of the most highly regarded laws of science. Do you accept those?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Well, if you hold to the second law of thermodynamics and the universe has been around forever, then the universe would have reached a maximum state of disorder or entropy. So that would be inconsistent with the second law of thermodynamics. Now, you need to give me an account or a justification that causality exists. You told me you use your sense perception to justify causality as a prerequisite for your reason. Appealing to sense perception to justify causality is begging the question. Sense perception is a set of causality. So all you're simply saying when you appeal to your senses or your eyes, you're saying a set of causal connections, eyesight, therefore causal connections. Arguing causal connections, therefore causal connections.
He's talking. He's trying to bamboozle you with bullshit. He's trying to baffle you with bullshit. He's losing the battle. Nonsense. 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 Nonsense.
Is begging the question, and it is a philosophical fallacy. So
philosophical fallacy. Has anybody in the whole world ever heard that phrase, a philosophical fallacy? If anybody has, can I get an example of where it's been used and what it actually means? I'm a little sorry for being grumpy this morning, but it is morning, very early. Oh, it's already 8:21 a.m. on this wet and dark December 18th. A Saturday in 2021. I'm gonna let this Darth Dawkins one play out. There's not that long to go, and then I would like to switch topics for a little bit before we get back into the end of the Darth Dawkins or Gestapo Gary on presuppositionalism, because there is another video to follow this one. But I want to, just to change the mood a little bit, find out what life was like in ancient Rome before Jesus. And Mary Beard, the historian, will be telling us about that coming up in about 10 to 12 or 13 minutes. Well, the sooner I get this playing, the sooner we get to the 13 minutes.
Other than appealing to begging the question, do you have any other means of justification for causality in order to establish that you can reason about God?
Well, wouldn't you use your senses also to discover God?
It doesn't matter what I think, sir. Can you justify causality? Because without justifying causality, you will have no basis to claim that you can reason and then reason that you lack belief in God. So what's your justification for causality, sir? Since God requires a justification, then your God, which is matter, energy, causality, and laws of nature, also require a justification. Now, if you don't offer a rational justification, you will be violating your own principle. What is your justification for causality?
Well, the way I see it, Mano, the only thing I can do is rely on my senses, really, which are just as flawed as yours.
Okay, first of all, we're not discussing that it's flawed. You are begging the question. Do you know what begging the question is?
Sort of.
Okay, you are resorting to a fallacious line of reasoning. When you appeal to eyesight to justify causality, eyesight already entails causality. Could you see things if causality didn't exist?
Probably not, no.
Okay, so causality has to exist first.
Has Darth Dawkins ever explained how he knows or how he has perceived that his God exists? If he doesn't use his senses, and if nobody else in the world can rely on his senses, how can he? I've never heard him explain that. Have you?
Before you can invoke eyesight, right?
Well, what if God let me see without causality?
I asked you a question.
Good question.
Does causality have to exist first before you can invoke eyesight?
What a stupid question.
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay, so when you invoke eyesight, you're begging the question. That's a fallacy. You're going to have to justify causality in some other ways and instead of a fallacy.
Yeah, but there's something around word salad all over.
Okay, sir, evident to what? How is causality evident? Is it evident to your senses?
No, it's self-evident. It goes beyond the senses to a very deep level beyond the senses.
How is causality
Beyond the
self-evident, sir? Is it evident to your imagination?
Yeah.
Okay, so you imagine that there's causality. Is that correct?
Well, I don't imagine. It's beyond that. I have like a deep bond with causality. I have seen it self-evident. We have a relationship now,
Okay,
actually.
so,
Deeper.
okay. So Carlos,
Sure, sure.
okay, we're done now because now it's clear you're doing shtick and stand-up comedy, and we're done.
No,
I don't,
sir.
I don't do that, Carlos. Listen to me carefully. I don't do that, Tango.
The one thing about Gestapo Gary is that he has no sense of humor whatsoever. He doesn't understand sarcasm. He doesn't understand satire. He doesn't understand mimicry. All he is looking for at every step of the way is, how am I being victimized? How am I being victimized? Guy's a mess.
Carlos, okay? Say hello to my little friend. I'm done.
Oh man, there is no stick though. Please, there's no stick.
I have to say, Darth, he actually, I thought he was a troll too. He actually just talks like this.
Oh, I wasn't referring to his accent.
And his weird expression.
I was referring. When he's talked about that he knows intimately that there's causality. I mean, this is either it's shtick or it's one of the most ignorant statements I've ever heard.
I honestly don't.
Why? You know intimately that there's God inside you, innate and all this kind of stuff. So why is your intimately or innately any different from anybody else's intimately and innately? You can't have it both ways, Mr. Gestapo Gary. Either everybody plays by the same rules, or there are no rules. You don't want to play by the rules. GG, Gestapo Gary. You are an abomination. Your bloodline should have ended at the flood. But I see that God, being evil, has allowed your bloodline to continue up to the present day. Gestapo Gary. All right, let's give you the final, 5 minutes? Go.
I think it's shtick.
Well, then he's a very ignorant person.
Do you want to continue with him, or do you want?
Yeah, no, I'm done.
All right, Carlos, have your closing words.
Well, I would not see it as ignorance because I have a deep relationship of causality. I would see it as you being ignorant because you're being judgmental toward the fact that we've built a relationship far deeper than you will ever have with God. God, listen, when you talk with God, God does not call you back. Causality calls me back every day. Okay, so we have a good relationship.
Yeah, well, Carlos, you didn't offer a rational justification. You just kept on reasserting causality. That's begging the question. And what you've done, evident to what? Your thoughts or your sense perception?
Both.
Okay, well, when you say sense perception, that's begging the question. So how is causality self-evident to your thoughts?
Well, it's self-evident just because it simply is. It is beyond my capacity to explain it. It's just simply self-evident. I feel it within my bones and my bones as a person. I would say soul if I believe it.
Carlos, may I recommend that you try out for the next tryout on Saturday Night Live?
I am not a troll, man. The last one was a troll. This is who I am as a person. You cannot judge me like this because I was born as a Cubano.
Maybe that being chained up for a long time did some damage.
It did do damage to my belief in God. I was hoping that you could restore it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, God exists regardless of people treating you badly. The Christians in the first century were thrown to the lions, and yet they didn't doubt God's existence because they knew not to love this present world. Now, the question you're going to have to ask yourself, Do you love this present world more, or do you love fellowship with a loving God who awaits to forgive your sins
Can you
and
believe
to
this?
relieve all unhappiness, sin, and suffering when you die? Okay, it's that simple.
He's got some serious
would love
wishful
psychologic-
thinking going
You
on.
can well, no, actually, you
How
know,
can I
the Bible
believe
says,
that if I have no
Bible
evidence for
says-
it?
the Bible said, well, Carlos, your
The
worldview doesn't have a basis for evidence.
Bible!
Evidence requires causality. You have no justification for causality. How can there be evidence for things when you haven't justified causality, Carlos?
Unbelievable.
I have
man.
justified it.
No, you didn't, Carlos. You gave me mumbo jumbo.
That was not mumbo jumbo. It was self-evident. The same way
It was claptrap poppycock, Carlos.
I don't even know what that is.
Exactly.
Okay, well, why don't you look in an English-Spanish dictionary to look up claptrap and poppycock, okay?
Fine.
Okay, thank you, Carlos.
Carlos, did you want any final words there?
My final words are, I believe that he is actually a good man of God. However, he is somewhat judgmental towards people like myself and other minorities who come looking for God but get rejected by by a very judging white person who wants to speak down to us because we were not born in a clean.
Carlos is going to pull the race card now.
I have
Okay,
tried.
Darth, let's let him make his point, and then you can go.
Yeah.
I have
If
tried.
the glove does not fit, you must acquit.
I have tried to raise. I have tried to raise myself above the dirty standards I was born in, hombre. So I do not appreciate being judged. If you did have proof for God that was self-evident, I would believe it. I truly would. But you haven't given me enough evidence. If it is self-evident to you, I congratulate you.
Yeah.
But it's just simple as not
Carlos,
No,
what you
Darth,
just
let
said
him,
was
let him,
truly-
Darth, come on, let him finish his point.
What you
Carlos,
said is
Darth,
just a contradiction.
dude, you
Someone shut Darth up. Fuck.
Yo, well, once I'm trying to be as fair to him as everyone else, but yeah, Darth, you got to let him finish his statement. Carlos, do you have anything else to say, or are you done with your closing there?
I would want to say that perhaps if there is an afterlife, Darth, we could meet there and have a more intellectual conversation with full enlightenment from having died and been reborn.
Yeah, Carlos is psychologically deceiving himself because he insists that if he had rational justification or evidentiary support for God, he would believe it. The fact of the matter is, Carlos believes in a number of brute facts about existence that permit him to reason. But he doesn't have a rational justification for it. He demonstrated it with the issue of causality. He couldn't defend or give a rational justification for causality, and all we got was a bunch of mumbo jumbo claptrap garbage from him. So on the one hand, he says, "Oh, I would believe in God if there's rational justification," but he believes in other things that are brute facts that replace God, but he doesn't have a rational justification, just mumbo jumbo. Can you imagine me using his line of reasoning for the existence of God? Do we think Carlos would accept that if I simply took out the concept of causal connections and I put in the word God and I use the same line of reasoning for God that Carlos used for causal connections, that Carlos would accept that? Carlos would reject that in a heartbeat. So he's just psychologically deceiving himself, and he's just making a pretense that if he had justification, there's overwhelming objective evidence for God in all that exists. But Carlos wishes to worship the creation rather than the one true God. And the Bible is absolute objective revelation of God, and the denial of it leads to absurdity. The proof that Carlos asked is that without the Christian God, you can't have evidence, justification, or proof for everything. Carlos wants to deceive himself that he can have justification, but you heard him here tonight. Other than a bunch of mumbo jumbo claptrap, he had no justification for his most bottom basic beliefs about reality. So Carlos is not telling the truth. And I'm done.
All right. Well, Darth, you said you wanted to go after that, so I think that's all. You can always come back here and debate people more if you want to in the future.
Let me go back to the room, back to the chat. Look out for number one. Hey, how are you? Welcome. Hey, you back to work now? Trucking that drive, eh? And Guy Liversige. You do. I do what? Welcome anyway. So what I was thinking, this is the end of that that first part of Gary's on presuppositionalism, but I wanted to take us back in history, back in time, to the time of ancient Rome before Jesus. What was life like in ancient Rome? And I've been actually following Mary Beard, Professor Mary Beard, for many years. I've read her book SPQR, and she's an expert. She's an expert on ancient Rome up to a certain period, up to the, I don't know, early 2nd century or something like that. So, with your kind permission, because I'm getting a little bit bored of hearing Darth's voice, even though this is it's kind of a well, no, it's a split episode, Life Before Jesus, and then the Darth Dawkins, but we're going to split it up. So this is, here we go.